Hi friends, welcome to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my name is Caitlin. For those of you that are not new here, my face is happy that you are seeing it again. Today we are finally doing, and I just got worried that I had lipstick on my teeth. We're finally doing my October ranking video. I am so late. Normally I film this on like the 1st or 2nd of the month. So I would have filmed this on the 1st or 2nd of November. Then it takes me a while to get around to editing and posting it. So maybe it's going up around the same time in the month for you guys, but it is the 21st, the 20th, the day that I'm filming this. And so I'm gonna have to like edit and get this out like right before Thanksgiving, so that I'm getting it up before the month of November is over. So anyways, I'm sorry for the delays on that. I just haven't been in like a great headspace, just been really stressed with like work and personal stuff and just didn't have time. So anyways, if you are interested in hearing my October eyeshadow palette ranking, then go ahead and keep on watching. Before I get into it, I do want to give credit to Karen Harris. She ranks her palettes both with like new and old palettes, just all the palettes she used in the month, which is what I do. I got the idea from her, so just wanted to make sure we give credit where credit's due. I will try to remember to link her channel in the description box, but I do have a terrible memory. So her name is Karen, K-A-R-E-N, Harris, H-A-R-R-I-S. I think it's Karen Harris Makeup on YouTube, but anyway, you should be able to find her. So I did not count how many palettes we're doing. So let's see. I think it's exactly 20 if I'm counting right. So anyway, we'll go with the 20 spot. And I did something a little bit different. I made myself like a little card for the palettes I used and like gave myself some notes so that this mini review, I can just hit the kind of high points on it. So this is the Wild Jaguar palette from Huda Beauty. I'm just as shocked as you are that this ended up in the bottom spot, but what I did was I kind of just gave my overall like feelings on it. And when I thought about this palette, my feeling was just kind of, you know? So yeah, so anyways, I don't know. I just haven't had like a great time with this palette. Part of the reason I think is because it like was shattered when it came. And really what I think this palette is good for is like a deep smoky eye, and I haven't done it yet. But anyway, the longevity of the shadows is good. No complaints there. The color story is part of what dings this one a little bit for me, I feel like, because it's just, there's not a lot to it. It's like a nice smoky eye palette, but that's really all it's got. So, you know, there's that. And then for this palette, you know, price is okay. I think these palettes are like $29 for 9 shades, which, I mean, to me is not bad, but I know for some people that would not be good. So anyways, moving on to number 19 is the Brunette Palette. I gave this palette a 1 star for the packaging, and I'm just going to show you guys. This palette is too expensive to have packaging issues like that. But anyways, the longevity on this palette is like nice. Like these shadows do not budge like at all. I wore this the other day. Obviously I wore this last month sometime, but I did my makeup and like I did it in the morning before work. I wore it all day in like 12 hours basically, and it looked the same at night. So like these shadows do not move. I did give this a lower score for like color story wise because I just don't feel like it's that inspiring. And then it is a pretty expensive palette. So that's really the issue for me, is the packaging and that it's not like the most inspiring color story. But if you want like a good neutral palette, like I really like this palette. Don't let it being down in the bottom like say anything, because it's a really good neutral palette. Anyways, next up is the Honoree palette from what was formerly Muse Beauty and is now Kai Love, I think. This is an indie brand, so you know, price-wise, it's a little bit more expensive. Packaging on this is okay. I think like this part of it is stunning. I just wish it wasn't so thick, because it's kind of, see how it's like so deep set in there. But anyways, color story-wise, I like it, but I don't love it. It's fun to have these like pinks with like the yellow, green, and blue, like to make it a little bit more interesting. But I have a hard time like coming up with looks with it. But I will say Stolen Kiss is like these shimmers are really nice in this palette. I like it a lot. I like those a lot. Next up, this one is 17. This is the Quintessence palette. This is the Sydney Grace and Tim Talia collab. Oh gosh, that Aurora shade like takes my breath away every single time. I don't know if you can see how pretty that shimmer is, but anyways, I think the color story on this palette is super, super nice. The packaging is nice too. I think it's really pretty, and you know, it is like a cardboard packaging, but I still think it's nice to look at least. This one's just down here because it's kind of similar in like, I feel like it's nice because you can sort of, I mean, now that I'm looking at it, it might be fun to do looks in like threes, like to go 3, 3, 3, 3. But I've kind of just done monochromatic looks with it. Like I've done like the blues, the greens, the red purple, you know, the Milky Way shade is also really stunning. So yeah, I don't know why it's not higher. My overall feelings of it didn't make me want to go like, oh, I love this one and it needs to go higher than some of these others. Next up is the Sigma Beauty Cinderella palette. I did like this palette. I like the shimmers in this palette a lot. I think it's a really pretty collection. I thought the mattes were nice. This was my first time using Sigma's eyeshadows. I thought the packaging was great. Color story was nice. I did have some issues with like the longevity of it. I feel like these shades, especially the mattes, faded a little bit faster than some of my other mattes. So that's why it's a little bit lower, but overall it's a really nice palette. Next up is the Huda Beauty Wild Chameleon palette. This one is up higher than its Wild Jaguar counterpart because of the color story. I really enjoy this color story. And then for the Wild Obsessions palettes, like especially these ones with the like holographic packaging where you can kind of, I don't know if I'm gonna get it on camera, but it shifts. I just think the packaging is nice. This one's just higher because of its color story. Next up is the Odin's Eye and Fancy Face, the Hummingbird palette. I hate the packaging. Like, okay, the actual like artwork, beautiful. This like matte, like scratchy, I hate the sound of it. I don't like it. I keep them in their cardboard sleeves for that exact reason. But I think the color story on this palette's really nice. It's just really bright, so for right now it doesn't like scream at me as one that I'm more interested in using, but color story's nice, longevity's good. Really, it's the, you know, the color story isn't like my favorite right now, and then the Odin's Eye packaging bugs me, but other than that, I like that palette. Next up is the Huda Beauty Wild Python palette. Again, this one's just ranking higher than its counterparts solely based on color story because they all have kind of the same quality of shadow, but I just think, you know, I like that color story of that one a little bit more. Then we have the Red Dragon palette from Odin's Eye and Judy. I think, did I say that the Hummingbird one was a collaboration with the Fancy Face? Because if I didn't, that I meant to. This one is more of a neutral color story, but I don't know, something about it. I just feel like it's like a special neutral like color story. Like it's fun when I want like not something so crazy for work. It's still like interesting, and like the shimmery shades on this one are so beautiful. I just really like that palette. Next up is the BH Cosmetics 90s Remix Dance palette. The longevity of this one's not as nice as some of the other palettes that I have. I feel like the shimmers start to like crease and lift up after some time. The color story I love. I love the pastels and the neutral row. I think it's stunning. The packaging's okay. It's cardboard packaging, but like that's so 90s, you know, that I just, the nostalgia of it, I do enjoy. But overall, this palette is like one of the lesser, like least expensive palettes that I have. So I think it's really good for the price that it is. Next up is the Natasha Denona Bronze palette. So I did give this packaging like 4 out of 5 stars because I do like it. I think it's definitely luxurious. I like the feel of this like soft kind of matte on the back, and then I like the idea of this mirrored front. My only issue is that it gets so dirty with fingerprints, but I still like it. But anyways, that's what the inside of that palette looks like. Longevity, 5 out of 5. These shadows, like similar to the matte ones, don't move, they don't crease, they look stunning all day long. I love them. This one, the only reason it's not higher is because I feel like the color story is like a little redundant. Like some of these shades, like Silk and True Bronze, are so similar, and then like there's just not a ton of difference between like Beach and Ridge either. So I just feel like there's a lot of repetitive like shades in here that I feel like could have, this palette could have been like a little bit more special if there was like maybe a bigger difference in depth. I don't know, because it is the bronze palette, so I get why there's bronze shades, but I just feel like there could have been something just to take it to the next level. But overall, really like that palette. Next up, I don't even know what number we're on at this point, but next up is the Melt Cosmetics She's in Parties palette. Again, with Melt, really great like longevity of the shadows. Mattes are super pigmented. The color story on this one is nice, but it's still like basically a monochromatic palette, so I don't feel like that color story is that inspiring. I like the packaging on this one. It did not rip like my, you know, brunette one, and I actually like the slender like type of like size that Melt normally does for their palettes. It feels good in my hand. The brunette one just makes me mad because it ripped. Yeah, so overall I like this one. No real complaints. I don't feel like I can put it higher when it's essentially a monochromatic palette, you know, because I'm factoring in color story. Next up, oh, and I didn't even, to be honest with you guys, I have no idea which of these palettes were new to me in October. I think the Odin's Eye ones. I know for sure the Haunted Europe palette and the Cinderella palette were new. I can't remember on the rest of them. I feel like I might have used some of them in September, but maybe not. Were the Huda Beauty ones new? I don't think so. I don't remember. I've bought so much makeup. Oh, this is so bad. Anyways, sorry. I can't give like a good breakdown of like which ones were new to me and which ones weren't. So we'll just keep on with the ranking. This is the Nomad Cosmetics Haunted Europe palette. I really like this palette. I didn't really have issues with longevity on this palette. I like the color story. I think these shimmer shades are so special. I love them so much. The packaging is incredible. It's another one that kind of shifts as you move it, if you can kind of see it. Anyways, I don't have anything really bad to say about this palette other than, no, I just don't have anything bad to say, actually. I really like it. It's just the ones that I have above it, I love. So this one's like the top of the like really like pile, but there's palettes that I love, and so that's why it fell there, but it's a really good palette and I have zero issues with it. Next up is the Odin's Eye Giant Wolves palette. This was a collab with Annette from Annette's Makeup Corner. This one is what that one looks like. I don't like the packaging on this one either, but I love the shimmer shades in here so much that it overcomes the fact that I don't like the texture of the packaging. And these mattes are so nice, and I think that Annette just did a really good job curating that color story. It just, yeah, that's it. I like it. Next up is the Lime Crime Greatest Hits Bangers palette. I just love this palette. I don't know what it is. Oh my god. Almost dropped. Okay. Hold on. I've made a mess. Okay, we're gonna ignore the fact that I have eyeshadow all over my fingers now. But this palette, I just think is such a fun color story. I know they just pulled like their top shades from all their Venus palettes, but I just think it makes for such a fun and interesting color story, both with the mattes and with the shimmers. And you have some shimmers that are really sparkly, and then you have some shimmers that are more of like a topper, and then you have some like satins, and I just feel like you have kind of different textures in there which make it more fun. So I really like that palette. And then I think we're in the top 5 now. Yeah, this is top 5. So number 5 is the Danessa Myricks Lightwork Volume 3 Infinite Light palette. This is another one I know for sure. So I'm pretty confident that it's the Sigma Cinderella, the Haunted Europe, this one, and then I think one other one that are new for the month of October. I'm feeling confident. I think I had the Wild Obsessions and the Odin's Eye palettes, I think, came in September, but those ones are questionable. They might have also come in October. I don't know. I really hope not, because that's a lot of eyeshadow palettes. Anyways, moving on. Lightwork Volume 3 Infinite Light palette. I was not going to buy this palette because it's expensive, and I felt like I didn't need it, but I use it almost every day, like especially these highlight shades. I'm actually wearing one of the highlights right now. I'm wearing Strawberry Moon, if you can see it. Yes, these shadows are so nice. Now, I've seen some people do reviews of this palette and say, like, if you have like single shadows, these just dupe single shadows, you know, like single multi-chrome shadows. That's probably true. I don't have single multi-chrome shadows, so for me, like, really I mean, these, like, I have the Natasha Denona Trio Chrome palette, and this is like similar to one of the shades in there, but it's like 10 times more impactful. So I love this. I'm super happy with it. I'm very, very happy I ended up getting it. And the only reason it's not number one is because of the cost and the fact that, you know, I have to kind of combine it with other shade palettes because these are all just multi-chromes, although I had done several looks just using the multi-chromes and I think they've still looked beautiful. But anyways, next up is the Lunar Beauty Moonspell Volume 2 palette. And I think packaging might have played heavily into this palette because I think the packaging is stunning, but I also like that you have kind of different shimmer formulas. I am a hoe for purple eyeshadow, so an eyeshadow palette color story that heavily involves purple is my jam. I think this palette is really pretty to look at and have, and you know, I don't know that I would say that the longevity on that palette, on the shadows in that palette, are as good as like the Melt Natasha Denona. Oh, I didn't even mention that. Sorry for being confusing. On the Lightwork Volume 3, an issue I have noticed is with longevity, they're cream shadows, so they just crease faster, but there's also some of them that I just noticed like are completely gone from my eye by the end of the day. I don't know, you know, I've noticed if I put like matte shadows down first and then put them over that, I have less of an issue, but that's actually part of what's keeping that one from like the number one spot, because those shades are truly beautiful, but they just like to leave my face so quickly. Going back to Moonspell, the longevity on this one is better than the Infinite Light one, but not as good as the other ones I'm about to talk about. So that's what kept that one at the number 4 spot. Number 3 is one that we haven't seen in a while. I haven't used it since like basically it came out, but this is the Kaleidos Flower Punk palette. I love this palette. I think this is such a nice curated color story. You know, you only have, what is that, 9 shades, and it still is like unique, and you can do so many different combinations. You can see how messy mine is, that I've used it a decent amount. Obviously not recently, I just said that, but at the time I was using it a lot. I really enjoy this palette. I actually keep this in this cardboard because I think the cardboard that it came in is really cool. I don't know that I love the like taking apart. I think it's cool that it's like different, that you're able to take the palette totally apart, but it's not, I don't know, it's not my favorite. So yeah, okay. Number 2 is the Blend Bunny Surge palette. These mattes, these are just beautiful. The mattes are stunning. The shimmer shades are good, but not my favorite, and that's the only reason this palette's not number 1, because I would die for these matte shades. I love using this palette. It is like a cardboard packaging, so there's not anything like super luxurious about it, but like what you're paying for with that palette is the quality of the shadows, and it's actually a pretty decent price, I would say. So love that palette. Number 1, I'm going to stop and let you guys guess which palette is my number 1 palette. I don't know how many months this palette has been number 1. I feel like it's been every month since I've bought it, but this is the Cash Beauty Color Trip palette. I love this palette. I love the fact that there's water activated liners. Sorry that mine are disgustingly dirty, but I love that. The shimmers in this palette are nice. I love the mattes in this palette. I just really like using this palette. It's the color story is inspiring to me. I like combining this with other palettes. I think the packaging is nice. That's really it. So those were all the palettes that I used in, oh my gosh, there's a hair in my mouth. Those are all the palettes that I used in the month of October. Did you use any of the same palettes as me? Do you have different or similar thoughts? Let me know if you liked this more like rapid fire breakdown of my thoughts, and I'll continue to do it. And with that, that is everything. Make sure to leave a comment down below with what your favorite palette from the month of October was, and if you're not already, please subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.